looks like in the top left something happens that I don't think I ever actually went over at the end of part 1. Maybe I did. So in the bottom right, we flat, and then we obviously flat the flop because it's a flop that hits his perceived range way better than ours. So when we raise it, we're gonna look incredibly strong. Not to mention that we have 3 of the 4 kings locked up, and then as we see on the turn, we actually have all 4 kings accounted for. So it's a lot harder for him to get it in thinly for value there. If we've got like 6-3 suited or something like that, it becomes a lot more attractive for us to get in it to fast play it. 100 big blinds deep though. We check back on the turn for deception, and also we're just kind of representing either an ace high type hand we're trying to take to showdown, or we're representing like a 6, which is basically kind of like an ace high, like a 6-5 type hand, or we're representing like a draw where we're kind of acting like we have those hands, and then we're going to make a smaller like false value bet on the river to take it away. He overbets shoves, and he's got jack-6 suited, so let's talk about that. I think it's awful, his play. I really don't understand what he's trying to accomplish here. If he's trying for thin value, I think just a good size bet there to try to, or like a half pot size bet to try to get Marshall off all like perceived ace highs and draws. Because in realistic, like if Marshall has like, let's say like queen 10 of diamonds, and he doesn't feel or let's say like 10-9 of diamonds, he doesn't feel comfortable betting the turn for whatever reason, thinks he's going to get check shoved too often, and Marshall's plan is to delay bluff the river. Then if our opponent puts out a smallish bet on the river, Marshall's going to feel handcuffed, like what can he really represent when he's raising here, especially against the player who's not afraid to make too many big calls or big plays. So if that's what our opponent wants to mimic in a bluff here, that's fine with his 6 here. But the problem is he's just going to get value cut too often if this is for value, and if it's a bluff, he's just not really moving Marshall off nearly as much, especially considering Marshall can easily have a king here that he's checking back the turn with, or even a bigger hand like 6s, 3s full, whatnot. Or anything he's slow playing pre-flop. Like if Marshall has aces here, he's not folding the river. He's just going to talk himself into calling the river bet, even though it's a over bet. He's just going to call it. And finally, like what real hands would our opponent play like this that are like huge? Like probably nothing huge. It just looks like he's trying to put way too much pressure on us on the river. And we just don't really have that dynamic going yet, where it looks like Marshall's going to look him up in a crazy fashion with like ace high. So why is he overbet shoving this river? I have no idea. So he does though, and we're obviously very glad about that. And then we're going to have a couple of hands here. Top left kind of plays itself. At the end of part 1, I definitely question whether we should flat or 4-bet. Here with the kings pre-flop, we're 100 big blinds deep. The reason I was saying we should be flatting rather than 4-betting is because we are only 100 big blinds deep, so it's really easy to get the money in if we want to post-flop compared to much deeper stacks. But also, it seems like our opponent is really keen on 3-betting, but not too keen on 5-bet shoving light. Like, we've seen him shove 10s, we've seen him shove 9s, we've seen him shove like an ace-queen suited type hand, but we haven't caught him shoving like 7-5 suited. So we're kind of saying, okay, you're 3-betting a lot, but then we're going to take this hand that clearly just crushes your 3-betting range, and you're out of position in a spot where we're expected to get money in very often, and we're kind of almost letting him off the hook by then just isolating his 5-bet range, which has only been reasonably legitimate hands so far. So I think it worked out fine here with 4-betting, but I definitely would, at this point in the match, be exploiting his tendencies to be 3-betting way too light compared to how often he's 5-betting, and then skew my 4-bets to more bluffs.